This was about 6 years ago when I worked late shifts at a downtown office. I'd leave around midnight, and my car was in this underground parking garage, one of those old, poorly lit, concrete mazes that always felt too empty. The kind of place where every footstep echoes, even when you know you're alone, or at least, you think you are. The first time I saw him, it started one night when I was heading to my car, dead tired, just wanting to get home. As I stepped out of the elevator into the garage, I felt something off. You know that feeling when someone's watching you? That crawling sensation on the back of your neck? Yeah, that. I glanced around, but the place was empty. Just rows of parked cars, dim overhead lights flickering. I shook it off and kept walking, until I noticed something in my peripheral vision. A man, just barely visible behind a concrete pillar, standing too still. I turned my head to get a better look, but the second I focused on him, he stepped back, disappearing behind the column. A normal person would have walked out and gone home. Me? I was too tired to deal with some creep playing games. I muttered something under my breath and kept walking. Big mistake. A few nights later, it happened again. This time, I was waiting for the garage elevator when I saw movement in the reflection of the doors. That same man, standing farther down the garage, just past the row of cars. But here's the thing. He wasn't moving, not shifting his weight, not looking at his phone, just standing completely still, facing me. The elevator dinged open, and I stepped inside. The door started to close, and at the last second, he moved. Not walked, rushed. A full sprint toward the elevator. I slammed the close button so hard I nearly broke it. The last thing I saw before the doors shut was his face. Completely blank, like he wasn't even looking at me. After that, I started parking on the street, even if it meant walking farther. But one night, I had no choice. The only open spots were in the garage. I told myself it was fine. It had been weeks. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing, but that night, when I got to my car, I saw it, a handprint, on the driver's side window. Not a normal one, smudged, too long, fingers pressed like they'd been dragging downward. I stood there, staring at it, my keys in my shaking hand. Then, in the silence of the garage, I heard it, a footstep from the other side of my car. I didn't even look, I just ran. I left my car and bolted for the exit. I don't know if he chased me. I didn't stop to check. But as I burst into the street and turned back, the garage was completely empty, except for one thing, way in the back, just visible in the dim yellow light, a figure, standing still, watching. I never went back. Sold the car, changed jobs, but sometimes, late at night, in the reflection of a window or a dark alleyway, I swear I still see him. I don't like talking about this, but if I don't get it out, it's just going to keep gnawing at me. This happened 2 years ago when I was living in a crappy little apartment on the edge of the city. The kind of place where the walls are thin, the pipes rattle, and the flickering hallway lights make everything look like a bad horror movie. I had just moved in, and at first, everything was normal. Quiet neighbors, nothing weird, just another forgettable place to crash after work. But then I started getting the notes. The first one was wedged under my door. When I got home late one night, it was written in shaky, uneven handwriting and a torn scrap of paper. Why do you leave your window open at night? That was it. No name, no explanation, just that. I felt a weird chill but brushed it off. Maybe a prank. Maybe someone left it for the wrong apartment. Whatever. I tossed it and went to bed. The second note came 2 nights later. Same shaky handwriting, this time left inside my apartment. I found it on the kitchen counter when I woke up. I like watching you sleep. My stomach dropped. I checked every door, every window, but nothing was broken. No signs of forced entry. The locks were still in place, but someone had been inside while I slept. I told myself I must have left the door unlocked, even though I was sure I hadn't. That night, I double-checked every lock. The third note was worse. I came home late and found it taped to my bathroom mirror. You look different when you're scared. I packed a bag and went to stay at a friend's place that night. I wasn't about to stick around and wait for whatever was coming next. The building manager shrugged when I demanded to see security footage. "Cameras don't work," he muttered like it was nothing. I told him someone had been breaking into my place, leaving messages. He just sighed and said, "Yeah, the last guy who lived there had the same problem." I didn't go back alone after that. My friend came with me the next day while I grabbed my things. Nothing seemed out of place at first, but then she pointed at my closet. The door was slightly open. I knew for a fact I had closed it before leaving. My stomach turned to ice. I walked over, heart pounding, and pulled the door open. Inside, wedged between my clothes, was a single Polaroid photo. It was of me, sleeping. I left everything behind and never went back. The landlord kept calling, asking when I was coming to pick up the rest of my stuff. I never answered. Some things just aren't worth the risk. I used to live in a small town just outside Chicago, in an apartment building that was old enough to creak when the wind blew, but sturdy enough that nobody really thought twice about it. It was the kind of place where everyone more or less kept to themselves. People nodded in the hallway, took out their trash, and didn't ask questions. That kind of silence can hide things. I lived on the 3rd floor, alone, and worked nights at a local diner. My schedule was upside down. Get home around 3:30 a.m., eat something cold, and try to fall asleep before the sun started burning through the blinds. It started small, just footsteps. At first, I assumed it was the upstairs neighbor, but when I mentioned it casually to the landlord one day, he gave me a strange look and said, "There is no unit above yours. The 4th floor was condemned years ago." I laughed, thinking he was messing with me, but he was dead serious. The upper floors had been closed off for decades after a fire damaged most of the interior. So whose footsteps was I hearing? I tried to ignore it, told myself it was just the building settling, maybe echoes from outside. Then the elevator started acting strange. One night, I came home and saw the elevator sitting on the 4th floor. I pressed the button, and it slowly creaked down to 3. The door opened, and it was empty. But I swear on my life, as it opened, I felt cold air rush past me, like someone had just gotten out. I stood there frozen, staring into that empty box. Then the doors closed on their own. I took the stairs that night, but the worst part, what finally broke me, happened about 2 weeks after all this started. I came home, and my door was open, not wide, just barely ajar, like someone had stepped inside and didn't bother to close it all the way. I walked in carefully. Everything looked normal at first. Nothing stolen, nothing knocked over. Then I went into my bedroom. There, on my bed, was a photograph, an old Polaroid. curled at the edges, like it had been sitting around for years. It was a picture of my apartment, taken from the hallway. The angle showed my door slightly open, with me inside, asleep on the couch. I called the cops. They did a full sweep, even checked the 4th floor, which was supposedly inaccessible. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, just that photo. They took it, started a report, and told me to keep the doors locked. Like I hadn't already been doing that. I moved out a week later. Didn't even take most of my stuff. Just packed 2 bags and left. I still don't know who took that picture, or why. But I do know this. Some buildings don't forget what happened inside them, and some people, they never leave.